We're going to be reading again from the Hope-Filled Teachings of Nichiren Daishonin by Daisaku Ikeda. The Gosho tonight is on page 147. It's on lessening one's karmic retribution. The entire Gosho is not here, so I'm going to be reading the entire Gosho out of the writings of Nichiren Daishonin, volume 1. It starts on page 199 in that. But before I get into this lessening one's karmic retribution, I wanted to read a couple of things that would talk about, that would kind of give us a premise of what we really are discussing right now, okay? So I'm going to read the full dictionary definition of karma. Everybody here's got an opinion of what they think karma is, right?
Right.
I mean, everybody knows what karma is, right? The key is, like, a lot of times we think we know what something is and we really don't know what it is technically. Okay, we have a general concept that we then glue into our head and we apply it to all things, and it isn't always applicable in all things. Okay, so for clarity, that's why I do these things. All right, so karma from the Buddhist dictionary. Karma on page 331. Potentials in the inner unconscious realm of life created through one's actions in the past or present that manifest themselves as various results in the present or future. Karma is a variation of the Sanskrit karman, which means act, action, a former act leading to a future result or result. Buddhism interprets karma in two ways, as indicating three categories of action, i.e. mental, verbal, and physical, right? That's how we make karma, either through our mind, through our mouth, or through our actions, correct? And as indicating a dormant force thereby produced. That is, one's thought, speech, and behavior, both good and bad, imprint themselves as a latent force or potential in one's life. All right? This latent force, or karma, when activated by an external stimulus, produces a corresponding good or bad effect, i.e. happiness or suffering. There are also neutral acts that produce neither good nor bad results. According to this concept of karma, one's actions in the past have shaped one's present reality, and one's actions in the present will in turn influence one's future. This law of karmic causality operates in perpetuity, carrying over from one lifetime to the next and remaining with one in the latent state between death and rebirth. It is karma, therefore, that accounts for the circumstances of one's birth, one's individual nature, and in general the differences among all living beings and their environments. It was traditionally viewed as a natural process in which no god or deity could intervene. The Hindu gods, in fact, were subject to the same law of karma as people, having become gods supposedly through creation of good karma. The idea of karma predates Buddhism and was already prevalent in Indian society well before the time of Shakyamuni. This pre-Buddhist view of karma, however, had an element of determinism, serving as more to explain one's lot in life and compel one to accept it than inspiring hope for change or transformation. The Brahmins, who were at the top of the Indian class structure by birth, may well have emphasized this view to secure their own role. The idea of karma was further developed, however, in the Buddhist teachings. Shakyamuni maintained that what makes a person noble or humble is not birth, but one's actions. Therefore, the Buddhist doctrine of karma is not fatalistic. Rather, karma is viewed not only as a means to explain the present, but also as the potential force through which to influence one's future. Mahayana Buddhism holds that the sum of actions and experiences of the present and previous lifetimes are accumulated and stored as karma in the depths of life, and will form the framework of individual existence in the next lifetime. Buddhism, therefore, encourages people to create the best possible karma in the present in order to ensure the best possible outcome in the future. In terms of time, some types of karma produce effects in the present lifetime, others in the next lifetime, and still others in subsequent lifetimes. This depends on the nature, intensity, repetitiveness of the acts, and the repetitiveness of the acts that cause them. Only those types of karma that are extremely good or extremely bad will last into future existences. The other, more minor types will produce results in this lifetime. Those that are neither good nor bad will bring about no results. Karma is broadly divided into two types, fixed and unfixed. Fixed karma is said to produce a fixed result. That is, for any given fixed karma, there is a specific effect that will become manifest at a specific time. In the case of unfixed karma, any of various results or general outcomes might arise at an indeterminate time. Irrespective of these differences, the Buddhist philosophy of karma, particularly that of Mahayana Buddhism, is not fatalistic. No ill effect is so fixed or predetermined that good karma from Buddhist practice in the present cannot transform it for the better. Moreover, any type of karma needs interaction with the corresponding conditions to become manifest. Moreover, any type of karma needs interaction with corresponding conditions to become manifest. Okay? So, does anybody know what the Japanese term for lessening one's karmic retribution, the title of this gosho is? Remember, it's Tenju Kyoju, right? That was always changing heavier karma into lighter karma. That's why I always have to look up Tenju Kyoju and find out how they retranslated it. Okay? So, I want to read now lessening one's karmic retribution from the dictionary as well, before I go into the text of the gosho. Okay? The principle, this is now on page 361 of the Buddhist dictionary. All right? Lessening one's karmic retribution. The principle that one can experience the effects of bad karma from the past to a lesser degree because of Buddhist faith and practice. In general, Buddhism attributes one's present sufferings to one's past actions or causes that remain in one's life as karma, asserting that one must suffer the effect of every negative cause made in the past. The Mahaparinirvana Sutra, Fa Xian's Chinese translation of the Nirvana Sutra, states, however, it is due to the blessings obtained by protecting the law that they can diminish in this lifetime their sufferings and retribution. This passage suggests that, due to the benefits accumulated through faith and practice, one can diminish in terms of both time and intensity negative karmic retribution that would otherwise torment one harshly over a longer period, even several lifetimes. Nichiren states in his writing, Lessening One's Karmic Retribution, which we'll read in a moment, if one's heavy karma from the past is not expiated within this lifetime, one must undergo the sufferings of hell in the future. But if one experiences extreme hardship in this life because of the Lotus Sutra, the sufferings of hell will vanish instantly. And when one dies, one will obtain the blessings of the human and heavenly worlds, as well as those of the three vehicles and the one vehicle. According to this principle, Buddhist faith and practice may cause one suffering and hardship, but will relieve one of the hellish suffering that is one's due. But did everybody catch the most significant sentence in that little bit there? He says, if one's heavy karma from the past is not expiated within this lifetime, one must undergo the sufferings of hell in the future. But if one experiences extreme hardship in this life because of the Lotus Sutra, the sufferings of hell will vanish instantly. And when one dies, so your life condition will change. You will not experience hell as hell. You'll experience it as the Buddhist life condition of mutual possession of the 10 worlds of hell and Buddhahood, right? So it's not going to be just straight hell. He says, and then, but if one experiences the sufferings of hell will vanish, and when one dies, one will obtain the blessings of the human and heavenly worlds as well as those of the three vehicles and the one vehicle. So what's the one vehicle? The blessings of Buddhahood, right? So basically, this is saying that you're going to be able to change your karma in your present form. Right? Okay. So then the last one that I want to read to you is the three obstacles and the four devils, because what are we talking about here? We're talking about karmic retribution, right? Which again, in the context of this Gosho, is just before the Daishonin is going to Sato Island, right? I believe. 3 weeks after he was nearly executed at Tatsukuchi. So he was, for 1 month, he was in Ichi at that residence of the deputy constable of Sato, right? So the bottom line is that what he's explaining right now is a rationale and understanding for people to be not freaked out and discouraged by the adversity that he's meeting. And he's qualifying through his own example the kinds of circumstances that they will meet. But his teaching includes the teaching of the three obstacles and the four devils in extension from Tentai, right? So I'm going to read the three obstacles and the four devils. Various obstacles and hindrances to the practice of Buddhism. They are listed in the Nirvana Sutra, which we just talked about, right? And the treatise on the great perfection of wisdom. By the way, three obstacles and four devils is on 716 of the Buddhist dictionary. Okay? So he says, the three obstacles are the obstacle of earthly desires, or obstacles arising from the three poisons of greed, anger, and foolishness. 2, the obstacle of karma, obstacles due to bad karma created by committing any of the 5 cardinal sins or 10 evil acts. And 3, obstacles of retribution, of the obstacles caused by negative karmic effects of actions in the 3 evil paths. In a letter he addressed to the Ikegami brothers in 1275, Nichiren states, the obstacles of earthly desire is the impediments to one's practice that arise from greed, anger, foolishness, and the like. The obstacles of karma is the hindrances presented by one's wife or children, and the obstacles of retribution is the hindrances of one's sovereign or parents, from WND page 501. The 4 devils are the hindrances of the 5 components, obstructions caused by one's physical and mental functions. 2, the hindrance of earthly desires, obstructions arising from the 3 poisons, greed, anger, and foolishness. The hindrance of death, meaning one's own untimely death, obstructing one's Buddhist practice, or the premature death of another practitioner, causing one to doubt. And 4, the hindrance of the devil king, who is said to assume various forms to take possession of others in order to cause one to discard one's Buddhist practice. This hindrance is regarded as the most difficult to overcome. Tentai states in great concentration and insight, as practice progresses and understanding grows, the 3 obstacles and 4 devils emerge in confusing form, vying with one another to interfere. One should neither be neither influenced nor frightened by them. If one falls under their influence, one will be led into the paths of evil. If one is frightened by them, one will be prevented from practicing the correct teaching. So the key is that the karma that you're experiencing in your daily life as somebody on the path to the attainment of Buddhahood, for the people around this table, you're all hitting 3 obstacles and 4 devil kinds of karmic retribution.
Yes.
All right? But again, what did we say here about karma itself? The last sentence that I emphasized there, how did I lose karma? Here it is. Okay? He says, hang on. Moreover, any type of karma needs interaction with the source, corresponding conditions to become manifest. Okay, so if we are experiencing the 3 obstacles, if we're experiencing Sancho-shima, when does that occur? Does Sancho-shima occur generally to just about anybody?
No.
No. Okay, it only occurs to those on the path to Buddhahood, right?
Right.
As practice progresses and yada yada yada, right?
Right.
Okay. So the point is that we talk about what you won't find in the Buddhist dictionary is Ganken Ogo,
Right.
deliberately creating the appropriate karma. So what I wanted to emphasize is that there's 2 ways to look at this, okay? You have either encountered the Gohonzon for the very first time, or you've come back as a Bodhisattva of the earth, already manifesting as a Bodhisattva of the earth for the sake of propagating the law, right? Either way, you're going to have a karmic influence in life that you're going to have to deal with in the form of practice, right? So, if you've already attained, if you're a Bodhisattva of the earth, you're an original disciple of the original teacher,
Yes.
correct? Okay, which means that probably you didn't make a lot of bad karma causes that you weren't aware that you were. That's why the Daishonin talks about the fact that he chanted the Nimbutsu as the way to create, that's the karma that he created in his early practice, right? Because that's what Seichoji Temple was doing at the time. So understand that this whole thing about lessening karmic retribution and your life, understand that really, if you perceive your life as that of the Buddha, this lessening of karmic retribution is relative. It's actually an expedient means. Do you understand? Because in truth, you're not doing it because you were a bad person. You created that karma in order to manifest in this Sahe world, in this condition, and search for the dependent origination of those around you. Do understand there's a difference, okay? So, going into the Gosho itself then, I will start on page 199, lessening one's karmic retribution. There were 2 brothers named Chundapathaka. When named Chundapathaka was called, either would answer. You 3 believers are like them. When any one of you comes, I feel as though all 3 of you We're here with me, page 199 of volume 1. The Nirvana Sutra teaches the principle of lessening one's karmic retribution. If one's heavy karma from the past is not expiated within this lifetime, one must undergo the sufferings of hell in the future. But if one experiences extreme hardship in this life, because of the Lotus Sutra, the sufferings of hell will vanish instantly. Now, how is that possible? Only through the simultaneity of cause and effect. And the only thing that opens up the simultaneity of cause and effect is the Buddhism of the sowing. Do you understand? So I want you to catch that, because this is not clear here. All right? So when he's saying, but if one experiences extreme hardship in this life because of the Lotus Sutra. Now, how would you do that? If you're going to experience extreme hardships in the life because of the Lotus Sutra, what kind of causes would you have made? You must be a champion of the Lotus Sutra, right? This isn't extreme hardship in this life because of slandering the Lotus Sutra. This is extreme hardship in this life upholding the Lotus Sutra. Do you understand the distinction I'm trying to make? Do you? Okay, so what is he really talking about then? So he's talking about somebody that has done Gan Ken O Go. Do you understand? All right, I'll read it again. The Nirvana Sutra teaches the principle of lessening one's karmic retribution. If one's heavy karma from the past is not expiated within this lifetime, one must undergo the sufferings of hell in the future. Okay, you're going to carry it with you. You didn't resolve it. But if one experiences extreme hardship in this lifetime because of the Lotus Sutra, the sufferings of hell will vanish instantly. Now, for that to occur, you would have had to have experienced more than one world at a time, right? You would have to be in the mutual possession of the 10 worlds for the hell to vanish instantly. That's why it's able to vanish instantly, because Buddhahood also exists within hell. Do you understand? And when one dies, one will obtain the blessings of the human and heavenly worlds, as well as those of the 3 vehicles and the 1 vehicle. So you're going to get learning, realization, bodhisattva, and Buddhahood all at the same time. That only occurs from what I just talked about. Do you understand? Bodhisattva, never disparaging, was not abused and vilified, stoned and beaten with staves without reason. He was Shakyamuni Buddha, right? Okay. Was he really that off the mark? No, he was probably expressing Gan Ken O Go. This is my point. He had probably slandered the correct teaching in the past. Gan Ken O Go says he would have in order to create the appropriate karma. Do you understand? That's the point I'm trying to make. Sometimes it's again, yes, you created all the karma that you experience, but you didn't necessarily experience it or create it for the purpose of doing something wrong or having done something wrong. Okay? All karma comes from slandering the law. Right? All bad karma comes from slandering the law. Ultimately, devil of the 6th heaven is the source of all bad karma. All bad karma comes from slandering the law.
Yes.
Okay? So, he's saying, he had probably slandered the correct teaching in the past. He's Shakyamuni Buddha. Understand that. That's who never disparaging is, right? The phrase, when his offenses had been wiped out, indicates that because Bodhisattva never disparaging met persecution, he was able to eradicate his offenses from previous lifetimes. Okay? This concludes my first point. He was also able to teach others the correct practice, the correct mentality. Had he not been beaten with if they would have said, here's flowers and food and gold, would he have gotten, would it be the same lesson? I will never disparage you. Would they be beating with staves and stones and shit if he's giving them good things? Okay. All right. Continuing on page 199. The 25 teachers who transmitted the Buddhist teachings, with the exception of Shakyamuni Buddha, were all temporary manifestations of Buddhas or great bodhisattvas whose advent had been predicted by Shakyamuni. Of these, the 14th Bodhisattva, Airadeva, was killed by a non-Buddhist, and the 25th, the Venerable Airashima, was beheaded by King Dhamira. Buddha Mitra and Bodhisattva Nagarjuna also suffered many persecutions. Yet others propagated Buddhism under the protection of devout kings without encountering persecution. This would seem to be because Good countries and evil countries exist in the world, and shoju and shakabuku exist as ways of propagation. It was like this even during the former and the middle days of the law, as it was in India, the center of Buddhism. This country is far away from India, and this is the beginning of the latter day of the law. I was certain beforehand that such things would happen. I have simply been waiting for the inevitable. This concludes my second point. Because he knew the only way that he could propagate the correct teaching, the great pure law, was to do shakabuku. He couldn't do shoju. Shoju wouldn't get anybody anywhere. Do you understand? So if you're only going to do shoju, you're probably not practicing this Buddhism correctly, frankly speaking. From the example of the Daishonin, the example of President Ikeda, President Toda, President Okay, so I expounded this principle a long time ago, so it should not be new to you. One of the 6 stages of practice in the perfect teaching is the stage of perception and action. At this stage, one acts as one speaks and speaks as one acts. Those at the stage of being a Buddha in theory only, and at the stage of hearing the name and the words of the truth, believe in the perfect teaching, but even though they praise it, their actions fail to reflect their words. For example, countless people study the non-Buddhist works known as the 3 records and the 5 canons, but not even in one case in 10 million is found where a person governs society and behaves as the texts teach. Thus, it is very difficult to establish peace in society. One may be letter perfect in reciting the Lotus Sutra, but it is far more difficult to act as it teaches. The simile and parable chapter states, if this person, on seeing those who read, recite, copy, and uphold this sutra, should despise, hate, envy, or bear grudges against them. The teacher of the law chapter reads, since hatred and jealousy toward this sutra abound even when the thus come one is in the world, how much more will this be so after his passing? The encouraging devotion chapter reads, many ignorant people will attack us with swords and staves. Again and again we will be banished. The peaceful practices chapter states, the Lotus Sutra, will face much hostility in the world and be difficult to believe. Although these quotations from the sutra are the Buddhist prophecies, there is no reference to when these persecutions will occur. In the past, Bodhisattva, never disparaging in the monk realization of virtue, read and lived these passages. But setting aside the 2,000 years of the former and middle days of the law, now in the latter day, in all Japan, only Nichiren seems to be doing so. From the present situation, I can well imagine how followers, relatives, disciples, and lay supporters must have grieved in the past when during the reigns of evil kings so many of their sage monks met persecution. Nichiren has now read and lived the entirety of the Lotus Sutra. Even a single phrase or verse assures one's enlightenment. Since I have read this entire sutra, how much more certain is my enlightenment? I am more confident than ever. Though I may sound presumptuous, my most fervent wish is to realize the security and peace of the entire land. In an age when none will heed me, however, it is beyond my power. I will close now to keep this brief. So don't forget, he's writing this to 3 guys that came to see him in Aichi before he went to Sado, and he's trying to encourage everybody that's being still castigated and persecuted by the ruling class in his absence, and so forth. And let me read the background. Nichiren wrote this letter on the 5th day of the 10th month, only 3 weeks after he was nearly executed at Tatsunokuchi. It was sent to 3 of his leading disciples, Ota Seiman, a government official, the lay priest Soya Kyoshin, and the Dharma Bridge Kimbara. One of them may have visited the Daishonin while he was being held in detention for exile at the residence of Homa, deputy constable of Sado Island in Aichi. Records indicate that the 3 disciples lived in Shimosa province, to the northeast of Kamakura. This letter may well have been an expression of gratitude for the visit and for their concern for the Daishonin's safety. Following the failure to behead the Daishonin, the government had difficulty deciding what to do with him, so he was temporarily detained at Homa's residence. Just as that time, a wave of arson and murder swept Kamakura, and the Daishonin's followers were blamed. The government then directed that the exile that had been ordered earlier be carried out. The community of believers in Kamakura was deeply upset by this series of events, and the Daishonin sent a succession of letters to reassure him. to reassure them. In this letter, the Daishonin says that hardships allow one to purge oneself of accumulated evil karma in order to bring forth the state of Buddhahood. Okay? So what did that just say? Purge oneself of accumulated evil karma in order to bring forth the state of Buddhahood. So no matter how you would attack it, whether it was from a perspective of Gankin no Go, okay, or eliminating your evil karma, what you're going to go through in the form of challenge and the later stages of your practice are going to determine whether or not you in fact attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Okay? This is the point. It can be looked at in either manner. Okay? So, going to the lecture then. Lessening One's Karmic Retribution on page 147 of the Hope-Filled Teachings. I won't read the first two pages because we just read them in the Go Show. Starting on page 149, lecture. This year, 2008, marks the 200th anniversary of the first performance of Beethoven's famous Fifth Symphony, Fate, in Vienna. This symphony's first movement opens with the well-known four-note Fate motif. According to some, the German composer described the intention behind this motif as fate knocking at the door. Beethoven was 38 when he debuted this work. Faced with encroaching deafness since his late 20s, he was plunged into such depths of loneliness and despair that he contemplated taking his life. This symphony is the fruit of his ultimate triumph over adversity, and it continues to inspire people around the world to stand up and confront their destiny. The power of the human spirit is infinite. No matter what fate might have in store for us, we can definitely overcome it. We can break through our sufferings and find joy. In my youth, I would often play Beethoven records in my small apartment. I used to listen to the Fifth Symphony during the most trying period in 1950 when I took on the business crisis facing my mentor and strove to support him in every way possible. I'll never forget how each time I heard the opening strains, I was stirred and encouraged by the vigor of life that abounds in the music. The Bodhisattva Way of Life, second column, page 149. Beethoven declared, "My art shall be exhibited only in the service of the poor. To struggle with one's own destiny while at the same time striving to impart courage to others, Gankin no Go, so that they can challenge and triumph over their own destinies, this calls to mind the Bodhisattva way of life." Do you understand? All right. A Bodhisattva firmly believes that there is no hardship or suffering that cannot be surmounted. The doctrine of changing karma taught in Nichiren Buddhism is an unrivaled principle of victory in life, bringing hope, courage, and confidence to all people. It embodies a philosophy of supreme humanism, which holds that each individual inherently possesses the power to weather any destiny, no matter how it got there. It also constitutes a tenet of unsurpassed respect for the sanctity of life, revealing the fundamental causality of life by which we can actually tap and manifest this power. In short, it represents a hope-filled teaching for all humanity, illuminating as it does the latent power innate in each person's life. In this installment, we will study Lessening One's Karmic Retribution, a letter Nichiren Daishonin composed in October 1271 amid the tumultuous period following the Tatsunokuchi persecution and leading up to the Sado exile. Why was he destined to encounter such great persecutions? This letter clarifies the significance of hardships and obstacles faced by practitioners of the Lotus Sutra, and in the process explains the principle of changing one's karma or destiny that is the foundation of Nichiren Buddhism. Everybody's with me? So you understand Gankin no Go and Sancho Shima, right? Okay, so let us study this important writing with the intent of learning from the Daishonin's lofty spirit. And before I go into the lecture, let me skip ahead to two gray boxes that will not be a part of the lecture. On page 152, Purifying the Six Sense Organs. I already mentioned this last week, but I'll mention it again because he's going to talk about it. On page 152, The gray box. The 6 sense organs are faculties of sensory discernment. The 5 known sense organs, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body or skin, as well as the mind. These give rise to the 6 consciousnesses: sight, hearing, smell, taste, touch, and the mind that integrates sensory input. In pre-Lotus Sutra teachings, the 6 sense organs are regarded as the source of earthly desires, which you got to get rid of in pre-Lotus Sutra teachings, right? However, the benefits of the teacher law chapter of the Lotus Sutra says that one can purify the functions of the 6 sense organs by carrying out the 5 practices of embracing, reading, reciting, teaching, and transcribing the Lotus Sutra, which I proudly have done all. With the 6 sense organs purified, one is freed of attachment to and delusion about their corresponding objects, color and form, sound, odor, taste, texture, and phenomena. Nichiren equates benefits or blessings with purifying our 6 sense organs. The way to gain benefits and purify our senses is through chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo. Okay, from page 148 of the orally transmitted teachings. And then the last box is on page 157, causality. Buddhism, on page 157, the big gray box, causality. Buddhism expounds the law of cause and effect that operates in life, ranging over past, present, and future existences. This causality underlies the idea of karma. Causality is viewed from 2 perspectives: simultaneous and non-simultaneous. From the non-simultaneous viewpoint, causes formed in the past are manifested as effects in the present. Causes formed in the present will be manifested as effects in the future. Buddhism emphasizes causes we create and accumulate in the present because these determine our future. From the viewpoint of Buddhist practice, cause represents the bodhisattva practice for attaining Buddhahood, and effect represents the benefit of Buddhahood. Based on the principle that the ordinary person and the Buddha are essentially the same, it is taught that cause, the 9 worlds or practice, and effect, Buddhahood, or the result of practice, are non-dual and simultaneous. Nichiren Daishonin writes, Shakyamuni's practices and the virtues he consequently attained are all contained within the 5 characters of Myoho Renge-kyo. If we believe in these 5 characters, we will naturally be granted the same benefits as he was. That's from the Object of Devotion for Observing the Mind. Nichiren refers to 2 kinds of Buddhist teachings: those that view things from the standpoint of cause to effect, and those who approach things from effect to cause. The former corresponds to Shakyamuni's teachings, by which ordinary persons carrying out Buddhist practice cause, aiming at the goal of Buddhahood effect. In contrast, the latter indicates Nichiren's teaching, in which ordinary persons, while manifesting their innate Buddha nature effect through faith and practice, go out among the people of the 9 worlds cause in order to lead them to Buddhahood. Gankin o go. Okay, you get it? That's what he described. They didn't call it out because, again, it's a contemporary understanding. That's Gankin o go. Okay, so everybody with me? Yes. Everybody understood why I went through that exercise then, okay? All right, so now we go to the beginning of the lecture. Great hardships lead to the attainment of Buddhahood. Gankin o go, or your karma. Either way, however you want to look at it. It's the same thing. All right? Highlights. One's from the perspective that you're a bodhisattva of the earth.
Yes.
One is from not having attained that realization yet. One explains how you could have that kind of karma if you're a bodhisattva of the earth. If I'm a bodhisattva of the earth, why am I getting hit like this? Gankin o go explains that. Somebody that's not hit to that, it's real easy. Okay? You got bad karma. Okay. Great hardships lead to the attainment of Buddhahood. Written October 5th, 1271, 1 month following Nichiren's near execution in Tatsunokuchi, a few days before his exile to Sado Island. Recipients, 3 of Nichiren's leading disciples, Ota Jomyo, Soya Kyoshin, and Dharma Bridge Kimbara. I wish I had a name like that. Hardships are a part of life. Encountering hardships for the sake of the Lotus Sutra is the path that leads directly to the attainment of to attaining enlightenment. So what's that say right there? Hardships are a part of life, so you're going to get them anyhow. Encountering hardships for the sake of the Lotus Sutra, however, is the path that leads directly. What is that? That's the attainment of Buddhahood in your present form.
Yes.
Directly means in your present form, right? Not in a future lifetime. Nichiren urges his followers to be united as they advance Kosen Rufu during this critical period of existence. Do you get it? In this writing, we can discern Nichiren Daishonin's towering state of life, through which he views great hardships as an opportunity to attain Buddhahood. He clarifies the common truth of Buddhism and human existence, that hardships are a part of life, saying that we should not be perturbed by them. His spirit is expressed in the words, difficulties will arise, and these are to be looked on as peace and comfort. Or actually, the quote is, and these are to be looked on as peaceful practices. Okay, if you actually go to that record of the orally transmitted teachings, is quotation from the Encouraging Devotion chapter, right? Or the Peaceful Practices chapter, pardon me, after the Encouraging Devotion chapter. In another writing, Nichiren states that if one were to give his or her life for the Lotus Sutra, or suffer persecution on account of the Daimoku Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, then the life discarded and the adversities encountered will all serve to enable that person to attain Buddhahood. Do you understand? Everybody's with me, right? And elsewhere he says, it seems to me that on the path to attain Buddhahood, it may invariably be when one has done something like lay down one's life that one becomes a Buddha. All right? Encountering great hardships for the sake of the Lotus Sutra is the path that leads directly to attaining Buddhahood. Therefore, there is nothing to fear. There is no greater cause for joy. This was no doubt Nichiren's state of mind following the Tatsunokuchi persecution. Nor do you have to burn your arms or peel your skin or do any of that other stuff, necessarily. Do you understand? For approximately 1 month, he's going to get into all that. For approximately 1 month after his near execution at Tatsunokuchi on September 12, 1271, until his departure for Sado Island on October 10th of the same year, Nichiren was held in custody at the residence of the Deputy Constable of Sado, Homa Rakuro Seiman, in Echi, Sagami Province, the present-day city of Atsugi in Kanagawa Prefecture, a short distance from Kamakura. As reflected in his statement, I survived even the Tatsunokuchi persecution, Nichiren manifested the life state of a Lion King who defeats all devilish forces and dedicates his life to the vow to lead all people to enlightenment. And he wrote many impassioned letters to his followers in such places as Kamakura and Shimosa Province, present-day Chiba Prefecture, encouraging them to stand up with the same spirit as he. All right, so what does that say? He manifested the life state of a Lion King and defeated all devilish forces and dedicated his life to the vow to lead all people to enlightenment. What's that describing? A Buddha. Okay, and he wrote many impassioned letters to encourage people that were going through similar difficulties or any kind of adversity. Mine's the greatest adversity. How can you complain? All right. I've been banished to Sado. You haven't yet. Okay. He's saying, encouraging them to stand up with the same spirit as he, meaning he's encouraging them to rebuke this slander in the same manner that he is. Okay, and he's trying to explain, why would you walk into the lion's mouth? Why would you walk into a moving train? Okay, why would you go against the grain? He's going, because by getting rid of that karma in this lifetime, while I know I can, I will never experience it in the future. And if I do that in this lifetime for the right reason, which is to uphold the law, then I will be able to, through the simultaneity of cause and effect, to eradicate all of my previous karma from previous lifetimes, and I'm guaranteed Buddhahood in the future. Get it? He says, at that time, one or more followers in the Shimosa area rushed to see Nichiren out of a concern for his safety. This letter was composed in response to their sincere actions. Dated October 5th, 1271, it is addressed to Ota, Jomyo, Soya Kyoshin, and Dharma Bridge Kimbara. At the outset, Nichiren refers to an episode involving two brothers, followers of Shakyamuni Buddha, who, depending on the source used, were both individually named Chundapanathaka, or were together referred to as Chundapathaka. Either way, When one was called, both would answer. Nichiren says that whenever one of these three followers, Ota, Soya, and Kimbara, come to visit, he felt as if he were in the company of all three. It is not clear whether the trio actually went to Echi together or whether just one of them went as a representative. From the way the letter opens, however, it seems likely that only one of them traveled there. This probably also makes sense given that it wouldn't have been easy to meet Nichiren while he was in custody. Even supposing that all three had in fact gone to visit him, he could not have spoken to them freely or for any length. This may also be a reason why the letter is addressed to all three. In any event, as we can see from the content of this letter, Nichiren seeks to urge his followers to unite together solidly at this critical time to advance together in the spirit of many in body, one in mind. The significance of hardships, page 151, which is really the entire purpose of this Gosho. Nichiren offers three perspectives on the significance of hardships. 1. Persecutions represent excellent opportunities for Nichiren's disciples to transform their destinies. Absolutely. It's a chance for you to become the Buddha in your present form. 2. Those who spread Buddhism will inevitably experience persecution. So you can't get around that part. Okay? And 3. Coming under harsh attack for propagating the Lotus Sutra signifies that Nichiren is a votary of the Lotus Sutra, as we are, when we do. We experience adversity as a means to realize our great inner strength, thereby achieving true peace in life. What does that really say? We experience adversity as a means to achieve Buddhahood in our present form, thereby achieving true peace in life. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. That's what that's actually saying. In Lessening One's Karmic Retribution, Nichiren Daishonin explains from three perspectives the significance of the great hardships he and his followers encountered. First, he presents the principle of lessening one's karmic retribution, pointing out that the current momentous persecutions pointing out that the current momentous persecutions they are undergoing represent an excellent opportunity to transform their destiny. Second, he cites examples from the past to clarify that those who spread the correct teaching of Buddhism will inevitably experience persecution. And referring to Shakyamuni and several of his 24 successors, Nichiren explains that even practitioners in the former day of the law in India who carried out shakabuku, namely refuting others' erroneous views and awakening to the truth of Buddhism, when it was necessitated by the times and locality found themselves in, were beset with persecution. He then anticipates that the difficulties he will have to face will be all the greater, for he is propagating the Lotus Sutra, the Buddha's highest teaching, in Japan, a land far removed from the birthplace of Buddhism in India, and where people disregard the correct teaching. Moreover, he is doing so at the start of the evil age of the latter day of the law, a time when shakabuku would be the only effective method of propagation. Therefore, the Daishonin states that he has long been prepared to meet great hardships and has in fact been waiting for them to arrive. So he had the wisdom to understand. He even talks about that. I knew that if I stirred this pot, all kinds of stuff would break loose and attack me. But what's he also saying there? He's saying that the 24 successors, along with Shakyamuni, right? They all had to do shakabuku, right? They had to refute the erroneous. Shoju is just to kind of go along with things and to encourage people gently. Shakabuku is to frontally tell them, no, that's not the way it is. We need to revisit that. And you don't have to tell them in a nasty way. It's not about I know and you don't know. It's about clarifying what the truth is and doing it directly without beating around the bush so that people can come to their own conclusions. It's leading them. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. He says, namely refuting others and awakening to the truth of Buddhism. When it was necessitated by the times and locality they found themselves in. Do you understand? So, what's he saying when it was necessitated by times and locality they found themselves in? What's the time?
No.
At the time of this writing. It's the beginning of the latter day of the law. What type of propagation is necessitated in the latter day of the law? Shakabuku. That's why he's saying that, that's why you're getting this adversity. You're in people's face. You're not saying, oh, if you don't mind, could I share with you what I think? No. You're saying, hey, that isn't the way I understand it. Straight up. Do you understand? All right, so he's saying, third, he cites various sutra passages to indicate that his having come under harsh attack for propagating the law signifies that he has read and lived the Lotus Sutra with his life. Okay, it doesn't, when he was saying back here, I've read the Lotus in the Gosho itself. I've read it and lived. He says Nichiren has now read the entirety of the Lotus Sutra. He's not saying, wow, I finally got through all 28 chapters. No, he's not saying that. All right? He's saying I've lived the sutra's teaching. Okay? So he's saying, suggesting that he himself is the votary of the Lotus Sutra in the latter day of the law. All right? As this shows, throughout this writing, Nichiren seeks above all to shed light on the significance of a practitioner of the mystic law meeting with persecution. Why? Because he just said all practitioners are going to meet persecution. Right? So best for me to leave an example with my own life of having been persecuted and overcoming that persecution, so you know when you get persecuted how to be. You get it? The living example. Okay? So he says, as this shows throughout this writing, Nichiren seeks above all to shed light on the significance of a practitioner of the mystic law meeting with persecution. He also endeavors to answer the questions posed by his followers who are wondering, why the hell is this all happening? Right? Who are wondering why they should face difficulties in the course of their practice, because I'm upholding the correct teaching according to you, Nichiren. Why are you getting exiled, and why am I getting my fief confiscated? Why is all this stuff happening? He would later discuss this point more thoroughly in his treatise, The Opening of the Eyes. This is actually the prelude to The Opening of the Eyes, okay? In the writing we are presently studying, Nichiren refers to the principle of lessening one's karmic retribution, Tenju Kyoji, lessening one's karmic retribution, and highlights the significance of hardships in terms of karma, a subject relevant to all people. In other words, he uses his own example of overcoming persecution to explain the meaning of difficulties which are universal. This letter can be seen as a reply to the fundamental question of why hardships are an inevitable part of human life. Yeah, not fun, but won't find a life without them. Okay? Nichiren's point, simply put, even Jesus got nailed to the cross, right? Nichiren's point, simply put, boils down to this. Difficulties will arise, and those are to be looked on as peaceful practices, as peace and comfort. All right? As peaceful practices. It is when we have broken through an obstacle that we can savor a true sense of peace and ease. It's also when we've broken through an obstacle that we have the experience to guide and lead others. It's only through that actual experience ourselves that we can say, I know exactly what you're dealing with. Have faith, right? Otherwise, it's theoretical. You don't have actual basis for being able to encourage people. Well, the Gosho says... The Gosho says. What good is the Gosho says if you don't live it? If you don't experience it? Okay? So he's saying, it is when we have broken through an obstacle that we can savor a true sense of peace and ease. So we shouldn't have a hang-up about having this adversity. This adversity is part of the process of being the Buddha in your present form. Yeah. By contrast, such a state of being will forever elude those who shun difficulties and try to run away from challenges, because you'll never emerge as the Buddha in that circumstance. Do you understand? Buddha never shuns difficulties and never runs away from challenges. So if you do that, you will never attain Buddhahood in your present form. That's why it's so important that you not. All right? There is no such thing as a life free of hardships. We experience adversity precisely so that we can achieve true peace in life. Ganken o go. All right? But unless we are aware of our inner strength to withstand hardships, we will find one difficulty giving rise to another. and we will ultimately be crushed by their weight. Do you understand what he just said? But unless we are aware of our inner strength to withstand hardships. What is that? Our Buddha nature. Unless we are aware of our inner strength to withstand hardships, we will find one difficulty giving rise to another, and we ultimately be crushed by their weight. Chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo is how you discover your Buddha nature, right? The latter day is a time when people's lives are shrouded in darkness or ignorance, and destructive influences prevail. People are drawn into a downward spiral of negative causes and misery. Therefore, we hope to guide people to happiness in the latter day of the law. If we hope to guide people to happiness in the latter day of the law, it is of utmost importance to teach them about their innate power to triumph over suffering. This is the teaching of Nichiren Buddhism. What is the teaching of Nichiren Buddhism? Actually, the teaching of Nichiren Buddhism is that you are the Buddha. Right? So, therefore, if we hope to guide people to happiness in the latter day of the law, it is of utmost importance to teach them about their Buddha nature. Okay? To triumph over suffering. That they have that power within their life. How can you do that if you don't do it too? You cannot. Therefore. Okay? This is the teaching of Nichiren Buddhism. That's why that's why you're called the Bodhisattva of the earth, not a common mortal of the earth. Okay? The principle of lessening one's karmic retribution set forth in this writing explains the quintessential power that resides within us, enables us to withstand hardships. The principle of lessening one's karmic retribution set forth in this writing explains the quintessential power that resides within us and enables us to withstand hardships. That's your Buddha nature. Nichiren demonstrated this power by weathering intense persecutions himself, based on his Buddha nature. Lessening one's karmic retribution equals attaining Buddhahood in this lifetime. It's your Buddha nature we're talking about developing. Highlights. Regarding lessening karmic retribution, Nichiren cites 2 points. 1. Even heavy karma that gives rise to hellish retribution can be expiated immediately by manifesting our innate Buddhahood. What did that mean? Again, you got to. There's some key words. There's triggers always. What do you think makes me repeat these things? When he says can be expiated immediately, what does that refer to? It's a simultaneous cause and effect. That's the only thing it can be. When you say immediately. Right. Expiated immediately can only be done through the simultaneity of cause and effect. By manifesting our innate Buddhahood. By being the Buddha in our present form. Okay? Lessening karmic retribution is the gateway to attaining Buddhahood in this lifetime. It implies a fundamental transformation in our lives from common mortals to Buddhists. Right? Get it? And how can we change our attitude or inner resolve at this moment is crucial. We can freely create our future through our determination and action right now. Because right now is what? The only thing that exists. It is always the crucial moment. This moment. The principle of lessening one's karmic retribution appears in the Nirvana Sutra. The Chinese characters for this term literally mean transforming the heavy and receiving it lightly. The prevailing view of karma in Nichiren Daishonin's time was that if people had accumulated such heavy offenses in past lifetimes, it would be impossible to expiate all of their evil karma in the course of their present existence. They would have to undergo hellish sufferings in future lifetimes because before their retribution could end. But Nichiren's teaching of the principle of lessening karmic retribution held that a person could expiate even the heaviest negative karma from past lifetimes through receiving retribution in a lighter form in this present existence. The theory of karma in Nichiren Buddhism is an empowering teaching that can revitalize people's lives. It teaches that, no matter how heavy, there is no negative karma that cannot be transformed for the better. In this writing, Nichiren's doctrine of changing karma or destiny is discussed in terms of the principle of lessening one's karmic retribution. Two major points concerning lessening karmic retribution are highlighted in this writing. The first point is in regard to Nichiren's declaration that the sufferings of hell will vanish instantly. What he is saying is that even the heavy karma that gives rise to hellish retribution can be expiated immediately, right now, not gradually at some distant future time. This is made possible by the principle of the mutual possessions of the 10 worlds, right? All right. Generally, the Buddha nature exists in all the other 9, yes. Right? Generally, karma is taught as being formed by past causes and manifesting as present effects. In other words, there is a lag time between cause and effect. They are not simultaneous. Nichiren Buddhism, however, teaches that karma can be transformed as a result of manifesting the Buddhahood existing innately within us, being the Buddha in this moment. Just as the myriad stars in the sky disappear when the sun rises, the unfathomable store of negative karma in our lives can be erased when we bring forth the life state of Buddhahood. Everybody's with me, right? Mm-hmm. Accordingly, the second point, one that is very important, is that lessening karmic retribution is also the gateway to attaining Buddhahood in this lifetime. In this writing, Nichiren states the sufferings of hell will vanish instantly, and when one dies, one will obtain the blessings of the human and heavenly worlds, the worlds of humanity and heaven, as well as those of the 3 vehicles, the worlds of voice hearers, cause awakened ones, of bodhisattvas, and the 1 vehicle, the world of Buddhahood. The blessings of the 1 vehicle constitutes the benefit of attaining Buddhahood in your present form. Lessening karmic retribution is not a simple settling of our karmic accounts. It implies a fundamental transformation of our lives, whereby we put a stop to the negative cycle of suffering and delusion and enter a new positive trajectory of happiness. Why? How is that? Why? Why does that say that? Lessening karmic retribution is not simply a simple settling of our karmic accounts. It implies a fundamental transformation of our lives, whereby we put a stop to the negative cycle of suffering and delusion and enter a new positive trajectory of happiness. Why? Because we've now elevated to the 3rd manner of transmigration. Transmigration in the birth and death in the realm of Buddhahood. Yeah. Right? We have fundamentally changed who we will manifest in every lifetime in the future. Do you get it? Mm-hmm. All right. When we do so, we can savor in lifetime after lifetime the blessings of the worlds of humanity, heaven, voice hearers, cause awakened ones, bodhisattvas, and Buddhahood. Just as everybody that achieves Buddhahood in their present form does. In other words, lessening karmic retribution leads directly to the great path of attaining Buddhahood. In that sense, when we lessen our karmic retribution, it doesn't mean merely zeroing out a minus balance, but rather that we effect a momentous change in the direction of our lives so that there's no minuses really ever added. Ganken Ogo is the only way minuses come into our karmic reality. We ask for them for the sake and compassion that we hold for others. Do you understand? We have to make the cost.
Yes.
We have to make the cost. We say, hey, I kind of like the other stuff that goes with that. I'll take this. You understand what I mean? But rather, what we affect, that we affect a momentous change in the direction of our very lives, shifting from a downward descent toward an infinite upward ascent, from a negative path to a positive one of genuine good. This is the power of the mystic law, which has the ability to transform the negative into the beneficial, to turn poison into medicine, to be born as me as I was born, to be who I am now. Okay? Yeah. The doctrine of lessening one's karmic retribution in Nichiren Buddhism is nothing other than the principle of redirecting our lives toward happiness right at this very moment. Here, now, just as we are. Similarly, transforming our karma is nothing other than changing those inner life tendencies that keep us trapped in negativity and unhappiness and solidly putting ourselves on a positive path. Realizing the potential of our life through our daimoku to the gohonzon, because that change in life condition doesn't occur anywhere else. It doesn't come from reading these golden words. You will not read this lecture and have it change. It will only come from sitting in front of the gohonzon and chanting as a bodhisattva of the earth, committed to the vow of Kosen Rufu. Therefore, the present moment in which we wage this struggle is vitally important. In the opening of the eyes, Nichiren cites a passage from the Contemplation on the Mind Ground Sutra, which states, which I've said to you guys many times, if you want to understand the causes that existed in the past, look at the results as they are manifested in the present. And if you want to understand the results, what results will be manifested in the future, look at the causes that exist in the present. Our present is the result or effect of our past causes. At the same time, the present itself becomes the cause that will shape our future. The three existences, past, present, and future, are all contained in the present, in this instant. That's a heavy principle, but it's the truth. Get your head around it. The important thing is how we change our attitude or inner resolve at this moment. This is because we can freely create our future through our determination and action right at this very instant. Okay? Nichiren's teaching of changing karma opens the way for a brilliant revolution of hope, freeing people from the predominant dark, fatalistic view of karma or destiny. The benefit of the purification of the 6 sense organs. Where are we at in terms of time? How long have we been?
1 hour.
We're at 1 hour now?
Yep.
I will add too much time. Okay, we'll start next week, page 156. The benefit of the purification of the 6 sense organs. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank